Welcome everybody to today's Shift Change webinar. We're excited to have you here. For those of you who are new to Shift Change, this community was created for emergency medicine and urgent care clinicians and healthcare professionals who know that they want something more out of their careers and their lives, but they may not know exactly what the next steps look like. Our mission here in Shift Change is simple. We want to help clinicians move from isolation and overwhelm into connection, collaboration, and action. And there are so many talented people in healthcare with ideas and skills and passions outside of clinical medicine, but many feel stuck, burned out, or unsure of where to begin. Shift Change exists to create conversations, relationships, and opportunities that help people build that next chapter intentionally. And today's session really aligns perfectly with that mission. I'm excited to introduce Kathy Elrod. Kathy is the founder of Windmill Consulting, where she helps business owners and teams achieve meaningful sales growth through strategy, coaching, and business development. And what I appreciate most about Kathy's message is that she approaches freedom and career growth from a very grounded perspective, not from the idea of escaping, but from the idea of disciplined action, intentional relationships, and purposeful execution over time. She's also part of Lon Stroshine's Normal 40 community, which is where she and I connected. Today, she'll be sharing her gap to growth framework and helping us think differently about how to identify what's next, close the gaps that are holding us back, and to build a life and career with more alignment and freedom. Kathy, we're excited to have you with us today.
Well, thank you, Patrick. I just feel really honored to be here. Excited and Aaron, glad that you're here for, I know folks will be watching this back. And so that is excellent. But Aaron, for you to be here is a treat. So I'll call on you and I'll pick your brain just a little bit. She's like, no, we'll take it one step at a time. All right. But I am truly pleased to be here. As Patrick and I hopped on a few minutes early, I shared that I don't have a slide deck. I do have some polished things that I want to share with you all and share with the Shift Change community. But that being said, really my goal and objective is to ensure that each of you that is either here or listens back to this recording benefits in some way, that you can take a nugget or a value point from something that I have shared and be able to put it to practice, that it'll benefit you all in your day-to-day. So I want to start by asking, because there's a lot of buzzwords that were even in my little intro, as Patrick put, or obviously in this Zoom link. So one thing I want to go back to is when we think about relationships and community, a word that comes up often is networking. Okay. So there's networking events, things of that nature. And I'm curious, and I'll ask you, Patrick, what does networking mean to you?
That's a great question, and it's something that I enjoy doing. Recently, I had a conversation with an attorney who was inside of Shift Change, and he introduced the term net weaving,
Hmm.
which I started using that after he introduced that term to
Love
me
it.
because it's almost like we're weaving a tapestry. We've got all these threads that we're putting together, and all those threads are connections between people that we've had an interaction with. And I think that, from an entrepreneurial perspective, networking or net weaving, it is crucial. And it's a skill that we are well positioned to do. And, because we do it all the time when, at work, we're calling consultants and things like that. So I think it's a skill set that we don't know we have, but we very much have it based on our day jobs, working in healthcare. But, networking is absolutely essential.
Yeah. I really like that. I have never heard that. So that's
Mhm.
a nugget for me to take away, which I appreciate. And I think you're correct. Like in our day to day, I always go back to, if you wear the mom hat, if you wear the physician hat, if you wear the ER physician hat, like, how to initiate a conversation, how to build trust quickly, right? How to get things done and move to the next step of a process, right? But there's something in, I would say, as he put it, kind of that tapestry or weaving, right? That there has to be a level of trust and authenticity. And so there's a gentleman that I know, Bob Berg, which is the author of The Go-Giver. You guys have read that book. Yep. Awesome. Yes. So he has, and I hope you've talked about his series with, is it David Mann? I don't know him quite as
It
well,
is
but
John. Yeah, John David Mann
John
and
David
Bob Burg.
Mann, and then Bob Burg. So again, we're going to touch on relationships, cold calling, but I really cold messaged Bob Burg after the first book, The Go-Giver, impacted me. And that cold message has turned into a beautiful relationship where I lean on him as a friend and a mentor. And so again, I'll share with any further ado, I'll go ahead and share what he states networking is. And he said that networking is the cultivating of mutually beneficial give and receive win-win relationships, right? So it's the cultivation, so kind of tapestry cultivating, I can see how those things, right? Of mutually, right? Beneficial give and receive to create really win-win relationships. I love that definition that he uses because networking, you kind of have to pump yourself up again, depending on your personality. If you're an introvert or an extrovert, right? It's like, okay, I'm going to go in this room. I'm going to network, right? Again, you mentioned it. I'm going to lean on things that I know how to do, right? I know how to go up and start a conversation. I know how to like grab trust well, right? But are we really going in there to give, or are we going in there to receive? And I think, again, we're all good humans, but I call it the human effect. Human nature is to naturally go, what am I going to get? I'm spending time away from my family. I'm spending time away from whatever you're spending, right? And it's natural to go, if I'm giving my time, boy, I better be receiving something from this networking event.
Right.
That's just human nature, y'all. That's just ingrained in us, right? So what I like about that definition from Bob Burg is it kind of flips that, right? So I actually always go into any type of networking event or any type of so like we're going to pickleball. I love this networking event. It's Pickleball Wednesday. It's a gentleman called Frank Iannelli, Frank and Friends. And he started this about a year and a half ago. And it was just, let's just get together and play pickleball. And what it's turned into is one of the fastest growing networking events in the Fort Worth, Texas area. So what's cool is I think it actually breaks up that kind of human nature where you go not looking to receive something, you go to play pickleball. Mm-hmm. Well, then what happens? You overhear someone going, well, I need this, or I'm doing this, or I've got this project going, or I'm working with this client. And while you're pickleballing, it's like, man, I got a guy, I know a gal, like I might be able to help you. And what's cool is really some authentic relationships, connections, and networking has taken place in that group. So it's a great example of that, right? So where so if you don't have a pickleball handle and, paddle in your hand, I think how I normally will go into a typical, evening networking event is, what can I give? Mm-hmm. What are questions that I can ask the human that I'm going to open up a conversation with? I know how to do that I'm going to build trust with. But what are the questions I can ask to quickly understand who they are authentically, what they do, what their mission is, what they're building, and then how I can give them something that will help them. So what typically happens, again, human nature, you do all those things well and you check those boxes with the person you're standing in front of. We like to share, and we like to share a lot about ourselves and what we're doing, right? So with the right prompts and the right open-ended questions, you receive all that information. And then the beautiful thing is, again, they're going to go, golly, I've been talking for 10 minutes. How can I help you? Like, gosh, So it really creates the stage for just exactly what Bob Burg says. It's that mutual, beneficial, win-win conversation. And listen, not everyone you have a conversation with in a networking is going to be in your inner circle. Okay. And I'll talk about that a little bit as we get into relationships. But there's usually a nugget that you can give them, or possible introduction, or just some factual data that you have that's going to make an impact on them. And I guarantee you do that consistently, that activity within networking, you're going to actually run into some people that are going to stick, right? That are going to like be like, oh yeah, this, call it an omen, call it a God wink, whatever, but you're going to bring them into your inner circle, and vice versa. They are going to bring you in as well. So the gentleman I mentioned in regards to the AI, we talked a little AI as we were kicking off here. Mike, just met him. I met him through another connection in my network. We had a conversation virtually, actually, and he emailed me, thanked me for the time, and said, Kathy, you are in my inner circle now. Anything you need from me, just say the word. I did that in an hour's time with the exact process I just outlined.
And you
Yeah.
didn't go into that discussion with that expectation.
No,
Yep.
no. I still get goosebumps though, like
Uh,
when it happens, because it's just so fun,
it is.
right? It's so fun. Because he needs help. We figured out with how he's pitching this product, how he's cutting through the noise of AI, right? How he's going to be in this massive boardroom. And he's so smart. He's an engineer. He's a mad scientist. He doesn't know what I know in my skill set of how maybe that could be presented or pitched in a way that's going to be received well, right? Now, vice versa, I have clients. Every business right now is trying to figure out how they're going to use AI in their organization. And they are signing up for subscriptions. They are creating new processes. They are trying to get their arms around it, right? What's cool is the clients that I'm working with, I'm slowing things down. I'm putting a cap on subscriptions and applications and saying, let's do a few things and a few applications well, and let's build a process and utilize AI that doesn't take out the human effect, but makes your humans more productive. And Mike can help me do that. So, right. Yeah, really, really, really just kind of good example. So I use that process in talking with Mike. So I'll go forward from here and say, when we throw around words like relationships and discipline and freedom and timing, boy, we can go down a lot of rabbit trails, right? We can spend a lot of time on each subject. And so as I was preparing for this, I wanted to touch on all of those and not get kind of caught in a rabbit trail. So I'll share just a little bit about myself, just a little bit of background. About my business, kind of how I got there. So very, very high level. As I thought about the seat that you were all sitting in, right? Coming from ER doctors, like Aaron, I'm curious, like what was your past life or what your current job?
I'm a physician assistant in urgent care.
Okay. So fast pace.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Awesome. Sir, you just, is it Minnie? Is that just hopped on? Yeah. What do you do, sir? What are you currently rocking every day?
I'm a ER doc by training. I was the chief medical officer of a healthcare startup that did emergency medicine telehealth, and I'm now starting my own company doing hospital discharge throughput.
Awesome. Okay. So I was referring to my past life, like in your past life, like what was that pace like?
Super fast, like chaotic fast.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say I'm not going to cuss when I go on these things, but usually one slips out. Again, I come from construction, but I will say like my past life, shit and chaos. Like that was my day. Like that, it was just try to manage those two things, right? The S and C of the day. So similar?
Very much so. That's
Okay.
the definition of emergency medicine and urgent care: shit and chaos.
Okay, well, I've always thought that would be a great title for a book. So if anyone wants to take it and run with it, I probably won't get to it the way I'm currently going on my roadmap of mission. But yeah, it is what it is. So having lined that out, I built a construction company. So I had sales and business development background, fashion industry, outside sales, Newport Beach, California, super fun, swanky stuff. And then I landed in northeastern Washington State, the armpit of creation, the largest county by kind of square miles, but the most oppressed. Looking back, I'm like, wow, what a great place to start a business. Not, right? Like, everything I could, there was no boxes that were going to be checked on just ideal location to start a construction company. But that is where my partner at the time, where his family lived, which he was a sixth generation cattle rancher. And I have a background of horses, rodeo, high school, college, pro rodeo. So, long story short, life deals a landscape up within our family and new union where we start a construction company. And it was out of need. We both had careers elsewhere, but he's an only child, and there was an almost, I would say, a life altering accident at the ranch that brought him back home. And so, thankful to medicine, his dad is still with us, and so, but capacity changed, so there was a need, and I feel like life happens every day, right? There are variables outside of our control that happen every day, and I always give respect to those things. But as I have seasoned over the years in personal and in business interactions, this is why relationships, discipline, and finding your freedom is so important, because it's really easy for human nature to say, well, this happened to me. Like, this is the situation I was dealt. Totally true. But we all have the ability to not react, but rather respond in a way that we can use relationships, we can use discipline, and just daily practices to kind of cut our path, again, cut through the noise of what you've been dealt. Okay. So we start a construction company literally out of the back of a Mazda pickup. And I mean, I'm a pup. I'm in my early 20s, and we start rolling. Start with residential construction, just fixes, things like that. Then we start going, okay, well, we're gonna do new builds, right? Long story short, because of the area, it's not like Texas. I'll just explain. Like Texas, you can be a general contractor, turnkey construction with a pickup and a suit and a little briefcase. It was very interesting when I moved back to Texas and saw that. Where we lived, we were, again, I mentioned, armpit of creation, in the middle of nowhere, no submarket. Like, to be a GC, you had to get really diverse, right? Like, you had to have equipment and a dirt crew. You were turning over ground. You were doing the septic tank. You were going ahead and working with the well driller for water, right? This is in a very rural area. So really quickly, again, sales and operations, there are two things that have to go hand in hand. Is I went out and did what I do well, my unique ability, and I found niches and areas that I could go ahead and run in and create work. Well, then we had to go ahead and then perform the work. Okay. So, long story short, as we took that and moved it into commercial verticals, we were working for the Army Corps of Engineers, the Border Patrol. We were hanging steel. We were doing utilities. We were working for Cabela's. I cold called into Cabela's. We did their flagship store in Lacey, Washington. We were just doing massively large work. And my life, oh, and as you guys probably do too, always so trying to manage my family, raise two kids, right? Have the ranch. It turned into shit and chaos. Every day. Every day. So, yeah, it becomes a grind. It becomes something where you turn into a machine. It's lacking human touch. This is just for me. So I'm curious, maybe talk just a little bit more about that environment, what it felt like to you on the daily.
At first it felt overwhelming and constantly overwhelming, but I knew that I had kind of reached a place where I could be comfortable, where I stopped trying to figure out like exactly what the answers were going to be for everything, and instead know, okay, like when I'm presented with something that I don't know what to do, I do know that if I take these actions and kind of like go through this process, I will end up at a relatively safe ending point. And so having kind of like a a process that I would work through that I knew worked for me, worked for the system that I was in. That gave me comfort, but it didn't decrease the noise. It just made me more comfortable within the noise.
I so appreciate that because I would say I kind of found the same thing, even though, at 20 some years old, moving as fast as I was, again, a little different than you all. I got thrown into that with very little education, right? It was kind of a sink or swim scenario. So I didn't have a textbook to go back to, but you're right. I built processes in order to survive. And they did give me a little piece in the noise, right? Now, could they have been more optimized? Oh, yeah, right? You bet. But at least it got me through. So interesting that you say that because I'm going to camp on that process, system, or discipline aspect because just in that chaotic environment, what I'm hearing you say is those processes you leaned on gave you a little bit of freedom, gave you just a little bit of peace. So now we're going to talk about how do you actually build your processes for your next chapter or the chapter that you're building in right now. Everyone's going to be in a little bit different spot, right? But how do you identify what processes you need to build that ultimately will give you freedom, that will ultimately turn into daily behavior, which then in turn turns into disciplines? And when those disciplines start being done consistently and they're leaned into, it compounds. Things just start happening to you, for you, they find you, and your business or mission starts grabbing traction quickly. And the relationships you add will compound the effect. Period. My business is proof. So I love that you shared that. So great reality to share, right? And now we're transitioning, right, from our S&C over to a little bit calmer pace, a little more structured environment. That being said, that's scary. I don't know about y'all, but sometimes when I was detoxing, and I'm truly going to say I detoxed, which I don't know if y'all have gone through that. There's probably like a medical term for that. Patrick, jump in if you want to. But like I had to detox from that pace, that demand. And then I kind of was like, well, what am I good at? And am I worthy to slow down? Like all these questions, I mean, that could be, 5 minutes of questions that I could fill that time with. I don't know if you guys have had any of those questions, right? So then it's transitioning high performers, right? Man, we could perform in that pace. We could do what we need to do. We could get done and land in that safe place due to the process that we built. But now we're in uncertainty, right? Now we're starting to go, where are we at, right? So we're seeking, at least I'll speak for myself. I was seeking purpose. I was seeking identity. I was seeking, golly, how do I control my time? Like, how do I manage my time? Because again, time was always managing me previously. And then we all got to eat. Like, how do I get my head wrapped around financial and personal freedom? Like, how how is, what am I worthy of doing? And how do I execute it? And how do I do it to actually, feed the family? So we talk about what's next. And so here I'm going to go into whatever reality you guys currently are in. I want you to kind of walk through this exercise. Feel free to take notes, and obviously people following along. I'm going to go slow enough you can write some of these things down, right? So any client that I go in and work with, and now the work that I do is I have done hypergrowth consulting with organizations, intense business consulting with organizations, and I have spent the time thinking about purpose, identity, mission, how I want to serve people well. And so I stay in sales and business development. The root of it is I help organizations businesses sell more of their product or services. That's what I do. I have about 3 different ways that I can accomplish that statement. Okay. So when I start with a client in the work that I do right now, I always go in and say, I need to understand where you're at. I need to understand the reality that you live in, the processes you use or don't use, and really understand where you're at. And then I need to understand where you want to go, right? So I'll give you an example. Company I'm currently working with, super cool, sports specialty construction. They do like turf, select sports. I don't know if you guys have kids in select sports or anything, but it's like, it is just wild in Texas, like soccer, football, baseball, softball. So they do all the synthetic fields, they do tracks, all that. Okay. They've grown truly by just grit and hard work and accident to a $12 million company. Okay.
Wow.
The owner, which is really cool, understands the gaps or the weaknesses he has, and through someone in my network sought to have a conversation with me. And so where he is now is he's a gritty, hardworking construction company that's doing top line revenue 12, they'll probably hit 14 million this year, just with natural progression. Okay. But he wants to, the success indicators that I pulled out of him and where he wants to go is he wants to go to 20, 40, and then 100 million. Those are pretty big numbers. But that's where he is. That's where he wants to go. So I used kind of this gap to growth process or methodology, and it's going to obviously, we're going to simplify it way, way down for us today. But in that type of context, we start going ahead and looking at what's in between where he is now and where he wants to go. We need to identify what's a reality, what's vacant, where's a gap, right? So we're going to do the same type of exercise, okay? But high level, I want you to see like, that's kind of where. So I want you to picture, okay, this is where I'm at. Minnie, this is where I'm at. Aaron, this is where I'm at. You can think about that, right? And then I want you to kind of put a name, like you are currently what? So I'll use myself. So I'm currently a solo entrepreneur. That's where I'm at right now. Where do I want to go? Well, I want to continue being on mission. I want to continue helping organizations. I want the brand of what I do to grow exponentially. And I want the tools that I use, the products, actually the tools that I use, I'm going to turn those into products because I want to put those, I can't be everywhere. And I want to put those tools that I have in my toolbox that I carry into every client that I help, I want to put those out to people so they can have the same benefit and value that I have from them, that the clients that I work one-on-one have from them. That's where I want to go. So curious, Patrick, what would you say? Where are you right now? What's your current landscape?
I've shed my identity as an emergency physician. I refer to myself now as a recovering emergency physician.
Yep,
I'm in
love it.
recovery, just like you were talking about, the cortisol, the stress, the excitement, all the things that attracted me to emergency medicine as a career turned into a negative and to a health detriment. And I was going into my work and my shifts trying to solve the unsolvable. And it got to a point where I was like, I don't feel like I'm doing anything productive. Yeah, I'm suturing a laceration or draining an abscess or, on occasion actually making a big difference in saving somebody. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it was like Lon says, I'm living another yesterday. And I got to that point where I was like, I've got to do something different. So I guess I would describe myself now kind of as a solopreneur with the mission of helping my colleagues in their entrepreneurial path. I would like to grow this brand into the go-to place for people to come to get help and guidance. And, the tools that I'm using, could be like this whole package of webinar series, that's available for people. It's to have mini courses, micro courses. It's to have cohorts that can help people Bringing in collaborators like Minnie is absolutely amazing when it comes to AI. He's leading a series of events that we're calling Pitch Slap. So it's identifying those colleagues who are inside of Shift Change who have gifts to be able to give. So yeah, I guess just off the top of my head, going by those steps that you had mentioned, that's kind of where I am.
Yeah, perfect. And then where do you want to go?
I want to continue to build this. I guess I've got like a 1 year goal of having 100 paid members inside of Shift Change, year one. Year two, 250. Year three, 500. And, intentionally bringing in the right people, bringing in the right subject matter experts who can help and bring value, add value. I want go-givers instead of go-getters. And just bringing in those people and continuing to expand my network so that I'm connected with the right people. And kind of using the medical analogy, working in the ER, I don't know how to do everything, but I know somebody who does. And I don't want to learn Kathy's skill set. I'd like to be familiar with it. And in case I need somebody, I can say, hey, Kathy, I'm going to pay you for 5 hours of your time. So really just trying to grow out my professional network and make true, genuine connections because I want to drive business to Kathy and I want to drive business to, all these other people that we're bringing into the community and really just kind of growing out that network and having meaningful conversations with them so that when somebody comes in who needs your skill set, Kathy's the one. That's just who you need to talk to. So I really want to build out my relationships and I think early on you were kind of talking about what does that person need? Where are they? And how can I help them? And really getting that go-giver mindset ingrained into my operating system.
Mm-hmm. I just have to stop and say, like, this community is so lucky to have you as the founder and their leader. I mean, seriously, like you don't find this every day. I lived a lot of my life in chaos and kind of a naive place. And I firmly believe there's great humans everywhere, but then there's also not. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so my dad always said it great. I started working with the general public and he's like, always share wisdom with me. And I call him and I give him some crazy stories from when I was, working with the general public. I'm sure y'all have a million. I can only imagine. Right. And he's like, Kathy, and he was the kindest, just sent from heaven man. Right. But I loved just, he was so direct and so clear. And he said, Kathy, I just need to tell you something. It's going to make it easier for you. I said, boy, great. Tell me. He goes, there's going to be people that get it. There's going to be people that don't get it. And he goes, you get it. So like if someone goes, well, define what getting it means. Obviously they don't get it. He goes, so you're going to still be kind to the people that don't get it. They're the go takers, right? You know what I mean? Like you talk about, right? And he goes, you're still going to be kind, but you're going to focus your time, energy, relationships with the people that get it, right? And so, man, Lon Stroshine, Normal 40, everybody there, they get it.
Yeah.
Like I say it all the time. Like Lon is a leader that has curated a community. Like people are, similar beliefs, similar value. They're on mission. They're all in a different place, but they get it. Mm-hmm. They're starters. They're ready to go, right? They're ready to figure out how to really live on mission across multiple different skill sets, industries, and so on, right? What's incredible is that's where you and I met, right?
Right.
And you in your own authentic way just shared the perfect framework for this community.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
It's just so cool, right? And so that is just a rare thing. Now, love that you have clear, that's the first thing you got to do. You got to be clear on where you are, clear on where you want to go. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then you start kind of unpacking timing, right? Yeah. Oftentimes, I think as we move through seasons of life, you can feel like you're late to the party. You can feel like you're like, man, and human comparison is evil. Whew, it is. Don't go there, y'all. It is evil, but it's so natural, right? Like it's so natural to come off a call or come out of a networking group and be like, oh man, Susan has it all together. You know, like you just, the constant comparison. And so timing plays into that, because if we let you start thinking about, man, this is how old I'm going to be this year, and this is where I want to be, and then timing and then comparison, it can be a snowball that absolutely pushes you down the hill.
Right.
So I would just be aware of that, and I would just give yourself grace. Like, I love that I get a year older every year. I seriously love it. I'm so fired up about getting a year older every year, because you know what? I have a whole nother 365 days of wisdom that I can pour into my clients, that I can go ahead and monetize if I want to, or I can give it away for free. I get fired up every year about getting older. So I think just having that awareness or that conversation with yourself is so important, and giving yourself grace, right? I mean, you guys have seen all the reels and TikToks about these older, like what Colonel Sanders, like when did he start KFC? Like was he like in his
65.
I mean, like I'll pull one of those little fun facts out of my brain when I'm, you know, talking myself down, you know? Yeah.
I
Were you
think
gonna say something?
we see, you know, so many of the younger generation who are now in their 20s and 30s, they're, you know, just starting off their medical career. They're doing all kinds of stuff. They're leaps and bounds ahead, maybe when it comes to AI, but they don't have the 20 years of lived experience to see how the system has grown, how it's changed, what things have come in, what things have worked, what things haven't worked. So I think that age and the gift of time and experience, maybe it wasn't the greatest experience in the world when, you know, when you're looking at it on you know, an excitement or a joy level, but they are still years of lived experiences that you can bring into the conversation. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I have to catch myself. I was like, yeah, it'd be great to be 30 again and have, you know, all this capability with AI and whatnot, but I'm happy with what I've got, and it's
Completely
valuable.
agree.
And
And
it's
those
very valuable.
conversations that you just had right there, those conversations are important to have
Mhm.
with people in your inner circle
Yeah.
and yourself, right?
Mhm.
You know, we all have a lengthy story at this stage in life, right? And there are good parts to it, and there are bad parts, right? Now, I am 100% transparent. I will answer any question that comes my way in a very transparent and honest fashion. Now, that being said, as you're building in your next and in your mission, you don't have to overshare, y'all.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? My husband has taught me that. You know, he's like, Kathy, let me give you your highlight reel. And this is where a supportive spouse or friend or companion, whatever the case may be, that's why because they know you so deeply. Like my husband knows me so deeply, and he will hold me accountable. He will champion me. He will challenge me in the most wonderful way. But he sees me from a whole different perspective than I see myself.
Right.
And so he's like, man, when you're talking to this prospect, like, here's your highlight reel. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, that's not what I would have, you know, like that wasn't my gut instinct to share. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
lean again, that's why relationships, and we're getting to it, is just so important, right? So that's my timing. Like, do not wait for perfect clarity, y'all. Like, timing is so important. Recognize an opportunity window, freaking take it. Do not wait for perfect clarity. Like, fun fact, right? This gentleman who is the business owner who's, you know, scaling to 20 million, I've been working with him for a week and a half, and we have quick 15-30 minute tee-ups just about every morning. And I'm just working through my process. I haven't told him my process. I do more action than talk about it. Like I just get in there and get going. Like once we've had the big conversation. Okay. And today it was so fun. He's like, Kathy, I feel like I've had an epiphany. Like I just have such clarity. This is a guy that's been doing this for 26 years, y'all, and is making millions of dollars. Like it was such a great reminder of me to be like, Hector didn't wait till he had perfect clarity to start. Like, dude's doing it and making
Right.
millions, right? So do not wait. Like, that's my timing piece.
And I think, Kathy, for this audience who are
Yeah.
all clinical, We're
Yes.
used to, we went through school. We went through, you have to have your resume, your CV, your MCAT or your GRE. You've got your residency application.
Yep.
Everything has to be buttoned up and 100% perfect.
Sure.
And
Sure.
when I launched Shift Change, working with Caleb Preston, it was like,
Mhm.
do I need to push it back? Keep pushing it back. And you're like, no, you got to rip the damn Band-Aid off and you have to pull the trigger. And I think
Totally.
if Minnie is still on here, you get that, from
100%. I'm still
from the
here.
work that you've done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, I think in medicine, we're just expected to be perfect, and that's not what is needed here. And, perfection is the enemy of whatever that phrase is. It's the enemy of progress.
Yep.
But like you said, you've got to get it out there. You got to start at some point. And yes, you are going to screw up. You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to pivot. You're going to
Mhm.
iterate, but you've got to get something out there. You got to pull the
Yep.
trigger and you got to do it.
Yep. And that's where the work of just awareness of where you're at and where
Mhm.
you're trying to go, as long as you have that awareness and you can have some create some space to reflect on that. Yeah, get going and then you're going to need to be nimble, right? Stay nimble. You're going to need to optimize some things. You're going to need to sometimes maybe scrap something and kind of pick it back up. That's okay. That
Well,
is okay.
I
Yeah.
would add to, sorry, I had to go mobile, so I'm not
No,
on
no,
the,
you're great.
but I would add too that like in hospital settings, whether you're a physician or not, especially in emergency and urgent care, we are always having to do work with an incomplete set of things. Like things are not perfect for us to get started, and people just walk in the door and you have to take care of them as soon as they walk in the door. And I think sometimes we imagine that business is somehow different and it's not. And
Hmm.
there isn't some like magical thing where you graduate with enough knowledge to then start a company. People are doing it all the time, knowing way less than we already know,
Yep.
and I know I'm further along than some, but like I promise you that if you are able to take care of patients in an urgent care or an ER, you are absolutely able to start a business and go.
Heck yes. Spoken so well there.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Totally agree. But we go ahead and we trick ourselves out, right? You know what I mean? We're like, oh, I'm not ready, or I'll just wait. Like, nope, right there. Like you guys have all the tools, you have everything inside of you. Just start. Like I firmly believe clarity. Hector proved this to me once again. Clarity comes from movement, not before it. It
Hmm.
truly does. And I have moved Hector through some movements this last week and a half, and it has popped clarity for him. And it's just so fun when you see that, whether it's a client you're serving, whether it's in your own mind. So just move. So
And I think,
relationships.
and I think,
Yep.
let me just weigh in.
Yep.
And I think,
You
Kathy,
bet.
one of the things that sometimes I believe, at least for myself, I didn't really know what that word clarity meant
Mm-hmm.
until I started working with Caleb Preston.
Mm-hmm.
He, having an external partner who's not living in your head, but somebody who is
Yes.
emotionally unattached to whatever it is that you're working
Yep.
on,
Mm-hmm.
having them to not, I guess in a way hold you accountable, but to get you thinking about what your core mission is and being able to identify it. And I always go back to the word investment. It's got two letters in
Mm-hmm.
the middle, ME, investment, investing in me.
Mm-hmm.
When I
Yep.
invested in working with Caleb to help me find that clarity and map it all out, it
Mm-hmm.
changed our trajectory. So I think we have to get away from that fear of paying somebody else to help us navigate this. We're experts, we're physicians, we know everything. No, you don't. And
Mm-hmm.
paying somebody to help you navigate this stuff is well worth its weight in gold.
It is. And so great point there, and we'll kind of use that to go into relationships. Your
Okay.
next chapter will not be built alone. Like there's another great gentleman, Dr. Rob Bell. So another dear friend of mine. I have all these authors that are great friends, probably because I harass them and cold message them and then we become friends. But he has a great book called Puke and Rally, which when I heard about it, like, I mean, I just had to read it because the title alone, kind of like Shit and Chaos, Puke and Rally. But he says that he has another book there that it's like I can't remember the exact title, but it's like, you're never going to get there alone. Like, it takes a team. Like, it takes a team to serve, someone obviously in the medical profession. It just takes a team, right? You're going into surgery, what have you. So the next chapter that you're building right now, it will not be alone. And I think, Patrick, you make a great point. Yes, we have to get over, like, you have to make investments. That's going to be money, right? You're going to like, hey, I'm going to throw down. It actually holds you accountable just in the act of throwing down whatever dollars you throw down. But then there's that outer perspective, that pop-up perspective from someone that is gifted with their unique ability and skill set or service, right? To go ahead and aid you in what you're trying to build and accomplish. That being said, sometimes look at this community. You said it earlier, Patrick. There are people in this community with skill sets and abilities and backgrounds that they might just want to complimentary give you information. But guess what? There's an investment of time and discipline.
Mhm.
Because someone's not going to, just fun fact for y'all, like, someone's not going to seek out Aaron or seek out many just to like share nuggets of value to you all.
Right.
It's probably not going to happen. Now, they might seek out to have a conversation, and hopefully it's that, coming in with a give instead of a get, right? We talked about that earlier, but they're not going to seek you out. No one is going to come find you. I don't know if Mel Robbins, or again, we're jumping into all the taglines, right? But no one's going to come find you, right? That being said, relationships, this community, right? The network that you have, you invest time and discipline, you will go ahead and gain something in return. And you'll give something in the process to them, I guarantee it. So I started selling Cutco knives door to door when I was in college. My first real sales job outside of like retail. Okay. And so, boy, you go through a cattle car interview process, they bring you into a room, and then like when they bring it down to the final 10 or whatever that make it, man, they get y'all excited. They give you, fancy drinks, and man, you guys made it, and you're feeling like you're top of the world. And then you're like, awesome. Like, okay, so we're going to sell these really cool knives, this fancy cutlery. They tell you all the value points about it. And then it's like, great, where are my leads? Like, where, that's what every salesperson says, like, where are my leads, right? My qualified leads. And they're like, well, here's a blank sheet of paper. And I remember it so well. We're sitting at a round table, and they're like, you need to write down all your friends and family. Those are your leads. And I'll never forget that. And I sold the heck out of Cutco knives, just FYI. So all my family still has them. They're that good. If anybody has Cutco. But anyway, so I digress. So when I started solely on my own, Windmill Consulting had been around, I've been in business now as Windmill Consulting for 4+ years, but I was for quite a while just solely working with a hypergrowth consulting firm, right? So, I mean, it really felt like a W-2, like there was a salary, I was part of a team, there was collaboration. So when I made the decision to solely go on my own a little over a year ago, completely and solely, not side hustle, but just completely jump in with both feet. And my work was done, as Lon says, working with that hypergrowth consulting firm. I did the Cutco practice. I got out a blank sheet of paper and I started writing down names. Started with my inner circle. So we are in relationships. What relationships do I need to connect with? Now, I'm pretty sticky. It's just my nature. Like you get connected with me, and Patrick can probably attest to this. Like I don't let a lot of time go by without reaching out or pinging you or what have you, right? So I started with those people in my network where it's like I wasn't going to call on someone I hadn't talked to in 3 to 5 years, right? Some random that I worked with that many years ago. Like I started with my inner circle, okay? And so I'd ask you guys to do this exercise when you're thinking of your relationships, personal, but focus on professional, and there's some crossover. Go ahead and identify who's your inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
Who's 15 to 20 people that like on a cadence of every few months. And if you don't have 15 or 20, that's okay. If you have 5, awesome. If you have 1, fantastic. Start there. Okay. But write down, and I want you to bracket first inner circle. Like you have kind of a touch point, maybe every couple months, right? Then go into kind of that next ring out in your relationships where it's like, man, I haven't talked to this person for a year and a half. but boy, they're cool. And there was some synergy there. Okay. White sheet of paper, write it down. That's what I did. I got to 25 names on my white sheet of paper. And the day after I quit and solely started on my own, I made that list. And then that was my job. And I focused on time and discipline. And I went ahead and reached out to all of those 25 people, either with a phone call is ideal. If I couldn't get them on the phone, I'd shoot them a text. Okay. And then I went ahead and I set up either a virtual meeting, or if they're in my neck of the woods, grab a coffee. Okay. These don't have to be 2-hour marathon meetings, half hour. If that's all they had, hour is ideal. Okay. And then I went ahead, I told y'all the process that I use going into a networking, right? I used the same process. I jumped on that call with them, or I met them in that coffee shop, and I'm like, my gosh, I am so happy to be present with you. My goal and objective today is to catch up. Like, what have you been up to? So they spend 20 minutes sharing what's going on in their world, personal, professional, who they're helping, what clients are doing, what's going on with their business. All the while, I'm pulling in and listening well to that information. Again, they're going to do exactly what I told you those people in that networking room are going to do. They go, golly, look at the time. So, Kathy, what's going on? Like, I'm so glad you called. Like, I've done nothing but share about me. What's going on with you? Well, gosh, I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to do something a little different right now. And I shared, and this is where I'm happy to help, but there has to be a process where you guys get crystal clear on what this next chapter looks like.
Yeah.
What is the value? Patrick said it very well. What is the value? What are you going to use your unique ability to give? What gap are you going to fill? Y'all are smart humans. Like, I'm sure you've seen in this industry, whether you're staying in the medical industry or pivoting just a little bit, but like, you've seen a gap. You've seen a need. Patrick told me, Patrick, you want to tell him like how you cold called in to the radiology? Like, let's go ahead and just mention that real quick.
Yeah, so, and we're always looking for side gigs and other ways to make money. And I had heard over the years about, people going and working at a radiology office to cover for contrast allergy and the low expectation of something actually ever happening. So I just started cold calling some of the imaging centers here in my area. And one of them said, yeah, actually, we do have somebody on occasion, but it's not really reliable. So I started doing maybe like one day a month for 2 or 3 years. And then when I left the ER last June, I said, look, I'm available 4 days a week. You guys can use me as you see fit. And then in December, they said, hey, in January, we want to get you on the schedule 3-4 days a week. Great. So they're paying me very well to sit in an office where I can get work done. So I had the need, which was revenue and income, but also a quiet place to work. And it just worked out well. So that opportunity is not going to come knocking on my door. I have to go and create that. And I think that we are, as healthcare professionals, we might be a little bit more hesitant, but we have that skill set. We cold call people all the time and ask them to do things that they do not want to do. So picking up the phone and saying, hey, I'm an urgent care PA or nurse practitioner or emergency physician. I'd like to see if you could use me for this, this particular purpose at your imaging center. And there's a good chance that they're going to say yes. And if you can give them reliable time, reliable hours, and consistency, and you deliver value and you're nice about it, man, you may open up an opportunity for yourself that can really change the trajectory of your career.
100%.
You have to do it. You have to take the initiative.
Have to take the initiative. So again, I mean, I would say you took the harder route. Some people love cold calling. I naturally just think that is just, I mean, you're just picking up rocks and looking for cool stuff underneath them. That's what I attribute cold calling to, right? That's what you did. But you can actually do that warmly in the process I was just talking about, with going ahead and having these meetings with those 5, 10, 15, 20 people in your circle, right? So you share what you're up to specifically. And what happens is those people go, so gosh, I have a network. And so if I'm talking to somebody and I hear, man, in my case, an organization just hasn't grown the way they wanted to in this quarter or over this year, or boy, leadership has no idea how to wrangle and manage salespeople. Can I go ahead and make an introduction? That would be awesome. I would
Yeah.
love to help them and have a conversation with them. That's all you
Mhm.
got to say. So quickly, because I don't want to run out of time here, but
Yeah, about
with,
five more minutes.
yeah, that's great. So, I mean, roughly within 30 days from when I went ahead and had that salary, had that comfortable, consistent income, and I was solely on my own, I went ahead through that exercise. By the end of 30 days, I had 2 clients because introductions came in from my network. I closed those 2 clients and I was working with and having conversations with 2 more. And by the end of that 30 days, I had brought in more income than I had my last month at the consulting firm.
Wow.
And I literally looked at my husband and I said, Jeff, this is crazy. I never could have dreamed this up. Like high level, I couldn't have painted that picture.
Mm-hmm.
But you know how I got painted? Simple disciplines, timing, relationships, and just doing the hard things and just doing them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of those conversations, they were great catch-ups, but they didn't turn into anything. But a handful of them, a handful like have just exploded. I have a client still today that was one of my very first clients. It's just been a long-term priority client that came from that exact exercise.
Mm.
So I just think it's so important to create a framework. Discipline, I'm going to just be honest, discipline, I don't feel comes from motivation. I don't feel it comes from inspiration. Those are both great things. But discipline is truly consistency in action. And it will give you your freedom. It will give you freedom of time. It will give you freedom of money.
I love that line. Discipline is consistency in action.
Mhm.
I know that's something that I struggle with. Undiagnosed ADD, 100 browser tabs open, and really just trying to get to the processes that can
Mhm.
allow for that discipline and, blocking out time, having time where you're uninterruptible. Your
Yep.
phone's away, you brick your phone, you do whatever it is that you need to do. And discipline is something that I need to work on. I don't know about Erin and Minnie. Erin is the treasurer for the College of Urgent Care Medicine. She is 1000% dialed in and organized
I
and
love it.
did I say secretary or treasurer? I meant secretary if I
I'm
said treasurer.
secretary, yeah.
Yeah, but she is incredibly organized and very
Yeah.
disciplined. So I'll give kudos to Erin. At least from the outside, Erin. Internally, it may feel different, but externally, you exude discipline and organization.
I try.
Well,
It probably is a
kudos
bit of
on
a
you.
facade though.
Well, but it's a start, right?
Yeah.
I'll say what I realized about myself is I'm a note taker. I love to make things pretty and organized, but I wouldn't execute a
Mm,
few chapters ago.
yeah.
Like I would just live in the planner and the organization and the model. And so again, it's having those conversations with yourself and really digging in and having consistent action. Yeah. So what I mean, I feel like I've hit a lot of the points that I
Mhm.
wanted to. I hope y'all have been able to take away some value and some nuggets. I will go ahead, kind of the methodology, that gap to growth in a very simplified form that I kind of talked a little bit high level. I'm going to go ahead and put that on a doc and shoot it over to you, Patrick.
Okay. Yeah,
So if
we'll
it's
share that
something you
out.
want to kind of, yeah, shoot that out to
Absolutely.
people, it'll be a worksheet you can use and
Okay.
mark up and then go from there. Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank y'all
And
for having me.
absolutely. And everybody who's watching this with the replay, Kathy is inside of Shift Change. And whenever we put the replay up inside of the community, we'll also put her LinkedIn profile, her
Yep.
email address, her website. And I would encourage, I guess I assume you're available for just kind of like a discovery call just to see.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy to help y'all in any way. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, before we close up, Aaron or Minnie, do y'all have any questions? at all? All right.
I have tons of questions, but I'll send them to you through Shift Change.
Okay, perfect. Bring it.
Awesome.
Happy
Well,
to help.
Kathy, thank you so much for your time, your
Yeah.
expertise, your patience, your gifts that you were so gracious with giving us today. Look forward to seeing you inside of Shift Change. Let us know what we can do to help you. You know, if any of the customers, clients that you work with, if they're in need of a medical professional for insight and recommendations and ideas, we are all here to help serve you as well. And look forward to getting this replay out. And thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And I appreciate that so much, Patrick. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks
All right.
everybody for
Thanks,
joining.
y'all. Have a good day.
Bye bye.